Rory O'Connor, good morning to you.
Morning, Jared.
That's pretty remarkable, isn't it?
Very interesting. Very interesting. I mean, he starts. I don't know. It's interesting watching it because I'd only listened to it before. Like he kind of says it and then realizes what he said and then he kind of skates around it for a little while and then hopes Joe moves on and Joe keeps him there a little bit longer than he probably would like. Because it's a big admission. Although he says there's no facts behind it, but he had one player that he picked that he suspected of doping. I don't know what you do in that case. Like, I think you said off earlier, like, do you bring in testers just specifically look at that person? Do you raise red flags yourself?
Yeah.
Is that what you're supposed to do as an ethical?
Yes.
Or do you go out and win the game? Because this guy's clean as far as I'm aware, and what does the coach do? What does the man who's paid to win the matches do? And that is probably the ethical question that hangs over many sports. If WADA or
and so we know what the right answer is, but we know what the real politic of professional sport is, that you aren't paid to be the moral arbiter. You are paid to win games.
Yeah.
And that's why this happens.
Yeah.
Because if everybody was just doing the right thing, it wouldn't happen.
And if individuals go off and do it themselves and are not ordered as part of some sort of system, we do hear people say there's no systematic problem in rugby, but players are sent away at academy level, at senior level. They get into a national team squad and they're told come back bigger. What does that message really mean?
Yeah.
It's like, is it more protein shakes or is there quicker, easier ways of doing
Chicken fillets. I mean, of course, there's 12 chicken fillets for breakfast and 12 for tea.
Yeah, absolutely. So, no, look, it's good that he said it. It's good that he put it out there. I mean, I don't think he kind of didn't follow through on it, but, it's out there now. He also, spoke about South Africa a little bit and the fact that he had, that he understands why people, I think that's what he said, he understands why people would have suspicions, although he said Neil Francis's piece was a little bit too strong, I think. So it's kind of bubbling away there beneath the surface. At the World Cup, no one really wanted to talk about South Africa apart from the Irish journalists.
Just,
it was kind of a...
Yeah,
why was that? Or do you know?
I don't really know. Like, I mean, you do sometimes get carried away by the sport itself and what's happening in front of you and the matches and it is a regular cycle, and it was kind of more at the start of the tournament when it was
before the game
still
started.
a preview mode.
Yeah.
Once the games start, and there is. I mean, Gatland even said, you don't want to be seen to be taken away from their success. That you don't want to take the gloss away from their medals. So
check your Twitter feed when that happens.
At what point do you make the accusation? Is it 10 years time when it doesn't matter? Like,
exactly. No, we have to have these conversations now.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting, I think, just to go back to this, that I don't think Gatland handled that situation properly. I don't think that any coach, if you have a suspicion, even if the lads in training are joking about somebody, then because it's so serious, you have to go and say, there's this joke out there, you need to address it. Because if it's true, then you can't ever play for us again. And if it's not true, then your character is being slandered.
So what do? You bring the player in and you ask them?
No, you do multiple things.
Yeah. So you bring them in and you go, like, do I have a reason to be suspicious against you?
And you also get the testers to target test this person. We hear all the time about players being target tested in all of the provinces, in all of the nations that play professional rugby.
I would imagine if the jokes are about that player, and I mean,
then maybe he's already being target tested.
You'd imagine so, and you'd imagine that's probably one of the sources of the jokes. I mean, there's certain players within the Irish setup that I...
I think that'd be very naive now if you think that if there's jokes that they're going to target test. If anything, I would argue that perhaps they may avoid target testing.
Jokes come on the basis of target testing.
There are players...
You know what I mean? So players are already getting target tested.
Players know who's been tested after every game. I mean, there's certain Irish players get pulled after every game. There is a... there's a routine to this, so the players know it, and that would feed into it.
It's a bit late to be testing them after the game. As in,
of course. Well, I mean,
testing is happening completely at the wrong time for these target tests.
They are tested out of competition as well, and they're tested. There are random. I think Leinster would, routinely get random. But look, I think you're right. Ethically, he should have been ringing UK
anti-doping,
and they should be ringing him today on the basis of this and going, hang on, who's this guy?
Yeah.
Why did you pick him? Is he still playing?
Yeah.
The other thing he says, and it's a trope that we hear all the time, and the facts are that people at lower levels dope. But like, why are they doping, and why do they suddenly stop when they get to the top level? Why does that stop at the elite level? Like, where's the? Yeah. Are they just bad at doping? Like, are they bad at doping as well as being bad at rugby? Like,
let's take, for example, a sport where doping has been rampant for decades. Did the best cyclist of all time continue to dope when he was the best cyclist of all time? And did it make him a better cyclist as opposed to him going, well, I've already made it now, so I don't need to dope? Yes, he'd continue to dope is the answer to my rhetorical question.
I mean, does Gerbrand Grobler continue to get the benefits of the thing that he did what was it, 4 or 5 years ago, that have the benefits of that programme that he was on, that he got caught for. Is that still aiding him to be a top-level professional at Gloucester now?
According to the research, it was.
I'd say, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the big problems that we discussed in here a lot, a couple of years ago when that was the burning issue today. So yeah, are they doing it coming up? Is it in school? I mean, the one thing South Africa do well that we don't do is they test in schools. I mean, we can hold up Craven Week as an example, but at least they test their school kids, whereas in Ireland we don't. So, but look, I think Gatland, it's good that he's shone a light on it. It's bad that he shied away from it. I think there is follow-up. And I think Joe tried to follow up, and he you could see him almost backing away. He wanted to move on a little bit. It was a really good interview. But I think the UK anti-doping will have follow-up for him if they get their hands on this. Yeah,
totally. And we'll certainly be following up with them as well. I want to talk about Bundi Aki, because obviously this has been bubbling away now for the last week or so. I think was it yourself or Cian had this story first?
No, I had Marmion.
Okay, right.
Yeah. I'm not going to claim it.
Okay, fair enough. Maybe it was Gavin. Sorry, it might have been Gavin Kumsky.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Now I'm in trouble with everybody.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to claim it anyway. I'm not gonna. People get annoyed about this stuff. Like, people are always going to be interested in Bundi Aki. His contract's up, but he's a good player. So people get annoyed with us if he signs on with Connacht. People are like, yeah, we're wrong. I say, no, of course there's interest. Of course, Saracens and teams of that calibre are after Kieran Marmion. I mean, that's just a sign that Connacht and Bundi Aki are doing good things. I think is he on a national contract? I don't think he is. I think he's due one.
Bundy.
So Bundy, yeah. So
why would he not be on a national contract? Because
I'm racking my brains. Maybe he is. Well, he wouldn't have been. It was 2 years ago when he qualified. I need to check that. But it would be the RFU who were doing negotiations with Bundi Aki, I would imagine. He has been pretty much never present in the Irish team. His age is possibly working against him to a degree, because he's 29, I think, now, and we are supposed to be moving on to a new era and all that sort of thing. But if you're a fellow who pitches up every week and performs, and you're the kind of anchor of a midfield, and you're
33-year-old Bundi Aki significantly different from 29-year-old Bundi Aki? I don't think
2 years. I mean, you just got to get to the Lions tour. Like, the first 2 years are the kind of pivot point, and then you kind of manage players through. You don't just throw out all your older players now, I don't think. So I think that Nusafora will be aware that there's interest. It will drive up his price. It's convenient for Bundy's agent that it's out there, and he may go or he may stay. I mean, I feel like he's done his bit with Ireland, and it's time to get the payload.
Yeah, and if he goes, we're obviously not picking him ever again. Is that how that works? Is that they're the rules, and those rules, and no sign of any change to those rules?
That's the way it works. Yeah. I mean, I particularly don't know if you'd change the rules for a player who's not from Ireland, personally. I mean, that would, especially when you don't pick Zebo for as long as you don't. I mean, maybe Andy Farrell comes in and changes that. Maybe he says, look, I need these guys that, maybe Donacrone's a bad example because he's probably a little bit past his best, but, that I can go and get Zebo because he's the most creative back we've produced in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a conversation Andy Farrell needs to have.
Is there not a part of this that we're cutting our nose off to spite our face? If Bundi Aki goes and plays for one of the French teams and gets paid £500,000, they're literally paying his wages, and we get to have him for free.
Yeah, but then...
Is there not part of that where we're like, that's not the worst deal I've ever heard?
Yeah, but then Connacht are weakened. Connacht's capacity to go out...
But you've saved $500,000, so you can go and sign
get the
three.
Next one. Yeah, well, that's a fair point, but the argument is that once he goes and he starts... the
floodgates open.
Floodgates open. I don't particularly... I buy it. I don't think that the interest is there. Like, I mean, the Irish players didn't exactly tear up trees at the World Cup. I don't know how many French clubs are going to be beating down the door for all of our top guys right now.
And it turns out we've loads of strength and depth. We've loads of players at roughly the same level.
Yeah.
Like, we thought we had a bunch of players who were absolutely elite world-class players, and we were wrong. It proved at the World Cup they weren't as good as we thought they were. Yeah. We have a bunch of players at the next level. Why don't we allow them to go and spread their wings and see over the next 18 months, 2.5 years, do what South Africa did, send them all off around the world, get some experience and go, okay, you're all really good, you guys not so good. Yeah, you're
particularly in this first 2 years of the cycle. You almost go to them, go do what New Zealand are doing, go to Japan, go make your money, and put the doors open for you to come back. Conor Murray, go to Japan for a year, take it, play. It's a slower, not slower, it's a faster game, but they're smaller players, it's less intense.
Yeah.
Go get yourself fit, go enjoy yourself for a year, see a bit of the world, and bring you back into the Munster fold then. Now, Munster fans will say, we want to win the Heineken Cup this year. And Connacht would be massively dented by Bundi Aki leaving. He is almost a spiritual leader in that squad. Like you could see, even when he came on, he only came on for a minute and came off because of an injury last weekend. But the lift the sports ground got, even though the game was already gone, I think he's not their captain, but he's a very important player in Connacht, and I think it would send a really bad message if the RFU let him go. Yeah. So I do think for all the people don't like the project players playing for Ireland, some people don't, some people do. Like Bundi Aki for Connacht is.
And he became more Connacht than Connacht itself. Like, even because when I arrived at the game last week, I just got there, the team was coming out, and obviously they were getting their cheer from the kids outside, but when Bundee was the last one walking out, and kids were gone nuts for him, and you realise that's because Bundee has been to every single school in Connacht. Every child feels like he's their friend. You take that away, where's the star then? I don't know, do Connacht have another star like Bundee? No way.
Not on that level. But I mean, Bundi Aki's already made a massive decision based on finance in moving to Ireland in the first place. You know, I mean, the lure of playing international rugby was part of it, but he could have done that for Samoa, and maybe even if he played for New Zealand. But you know, the RFU came in with a significant offer to come and play for Ireland, play for Connacht, and like many before him, he came over and did it. And if say Claremont or Racing 92 are offering him a significant package in the way that's, you know, once Ireland were blown out of the water by for the Zebo one. If Ireland have been blown out of the water, like, do you match that for a 29-year-old? I mean, Nusafora has, I can't remember her name, but he has basically a statistician or an analytics person who basically does the numbers on the player's value. I would say Bundy's value is pretty high because he pitches up so often. So they'll probably come at him with a decent contract. But whether an RFU decent contract can match what the French are offering is an interesting one. Yeah. And if he goes, I think
that does, then we should be having this conversation as opposed to it just being us having this conversation. The conversation should be had about allowing everybody to go off for a couple of years and see what happens. Because we've tried it with everybody, every minute managed, every training session managed, every load, every piece of nutrition managed for 4 years, and it didn't work. It didn't give us what we needed in the end. Yeah. So let's try something different.
Yeah, I think just play more. You know, like stop managing them as much. You know, but you know, bring back the interpros. You know, like it doesn't seem to bother the English or South African players. I think the Irish players were overprotected. But I do think that weakening. I think Leinster. You know, like Leinster fans won't like this, but like Leinster can afford to lose a few. Connacht can't afford to lose Bundi Aki. I know you can go to the market, but you can't necessarily get the same match.
No, it's
always a difficult place for a player to come from overseas. I mean, I was down there yesterday; it was miserable. You know, like players. There have been a lot of players who haven't settled in Galway and particularly from the islands. You know, it's. I mean, they could have had Sevu Reece down there as well at the moment. He could have been the Bundi Aki of the future if it wasn't for his own behaviour. So,
kind of reminds me a bit of how when Niall Quinn used to describe trying to get players to move to Sunderland.
Yeah,
like it wants to be a pretty good deal because Galway's lovely, but if you're not from
there, it's not even the city. And Galway's lovely. I don't want to anger people. The sports ground facilities are terrible.
Oh, stop.
And until the redevelopment happens, I mean, Bundy's already come out and given out about them. He went back after Ireland training and kind of went, look at this pitch. You know, I'm back here in this muck and rain, and the pictures of him jumping over big puddles, and I mean, it's part of the rustic charm that you know that appeals to us probably romantically, but when you're there on a daily basis. You know, until that redevelopment happens, it's like they're way below what the other provinces can offer in terms of training facilities.
But unless they keep hold of the Bundies and stuff, that's not going to happen. So you can see how it's so difficult for them.
It's double-edged sword, I think. Like, you know, there are two sides. And I think I think it's a discussion worth having about whether the RFU loosen that ruling and let the players go off and earn the big money and
continue to pick them for a couple of years.
And also, and why don't you use London Irish? Make a deal with Declan Kidney.
Here, look, the London Irish thing. They should buy London Irish. They should put together a consortium.
An Irish businessman with loads of money.
But it would be no harm actually having one of the shares in the Premiership and knowing exactly what's happening in those rooms.
I interviewed Kidney before the start of the season, and he said he has now. I don't know if he said he'd never spoken to David Nusafora, but he said that conversation has not happened. That there was a bit of a burning of the bridges during previous regimes, and the relations weren't great. God, that's a no-brainer for Nusafora to pick up the phone.
I've heard the RFU have burned bridges all over the place, to be honest.
Yeah.
There was a debate on Friday in here about whether or not Bundi Aki owed it to Ireland and owed it to Connacht to stay. As a Connacht supporter, what do you think?
I wouldn't agree with that at all. It's his career. He owes it to himself and his family to do what's right for him. And if you're a believer in people and a believer in how people progress, and if you're grateful for what Bundee has brought to Connacht. If he's decided his time is done, his time is done. That's like the argument people make, oh, you've studied medicine in Ireland for 10 years. Of course, I would say this, you better stay here and suffer in the HSE for 10 years, pay us back for the taxes we paid to put you through college. Like, life doesn't work that way. You know, like, that's ridiculous. Connacht has given him great things, but I think he has given Connacht more than Connacht has given him.
You can't cynically exploit the rules and then get upset when the player then cynically exploit.
Cynically, like,
he's not cynically. Just does. I mean, the reason Bundi Aki had never been to Connacht before he signed, he's bought into it brilliantly since he got here. But initially, it was the carrot of a cap and a very good contract.
Yeah, and he'd wait 3 years.
Scotland. Glasgow tried to sign him.
Right, and he had to wait 3 years for the cap. So while he was doing that, he was showing up every week and doing his job.
He helped turn Connacht into a force.
Exactly. And doing it well, and doing it in the rain.
No, you can't have both sides of it. Like, you got to let the guy go and do what's best for his career.
Instead of looking at that, exactly, let them go out overseas, let them get their experience, and then take, jeepers, if the French are throwing money at them and they're keeping them happy and building them up and keeping them strong and giving them skills, absolutely do it and take it back as your green jersey on it. It's nuts.
I'm inclined to agree. Can we talk briefly about Saracens? Because the narrative coming out of Saracens is like, oh, the European Cup, we have no interest in that whatsoever. But like,
not buying it.
Why does it make no sense at all?
No.
This is exactly the year they want to win the European Cup. It's like, look at you, look at all you put on our shoulders, and we're still the best team in Europe.
Absolutely, and it's a dressing room full of winners. And however they put that squad together, they are excellent players in a winning culture, and they can't win the Premiership this year.
A really deep squad.
A really deep squad.
So
the best academy in the UK, possibly.
The only thing on offer for them, like the 35 points deduction will get cut to something smaller. They're definitely going to stay up.
No, they're not appealing. It doesn't sound like they're going to appeal.
Okay. Maybe.
So, like,
I still think they're going to make.
They'll still stay up. Like, but based on their
there's
points
no way
total,
the Premiership can do without Saracens. They're not that dumb.
Well, they relegated. Well, not they relegated. The Harlequins got relegated and came back. It's not. I don't think the other Premiership clubs would be sad to see them go. I don't think they like them very much. I think we could safely say that based on what's come out in the recent past.
From Exeter.
Exeter called for it. Was it Exeter? Someone called for them to be relegated. Danny Kerr, wasn't it? I think they'd be quite happy to get rid of them so they can maybe have a few days in the sun themselves. But they're the best. Like, I was going to say they're the best running club in the country. They're obviously not, because they've breached a lot of protocols. But they have put together something pretty special on the pitch and in the dressing room. Mark McCall is someone that the Irish youth should be looking at themselves, even though I'm not sure he'd ever come back. But an Irish guy put this all together, and I'm
Bridges
sure
burned, you say? What?
I'm sure he was given a budget and he's implemented it, to the best of his ability.
Yeah.
No, I don't buy it, and I mean, I do think that they slipped off the pace 2 years ago, the year Leinster won it, and that was down to the fact that they had so many players in the Lions tour and they came back a bit broken, and they have basically, I think, 6 players who just played in the World Cup final and lost it. Went deep into the World Cup, played pretty much the entire Rugby Championship. So that will have an effect. And whether they'll pick those players this weekend remains to be seen. And if they don't, they go to Racing and they lose and they're suddenly on the back foot.
But aren't Racing rubbish at the minute?
Racing they're not. They're playing below themselves. Like, they're still really good, but they've suspended Nakarawa because he went off and built a house for his father instead of coming back to Racing after the World Cup. So
right.
There's all sorts of little weird storylines going on. It's actually why I kind of believe the Irish province could have a good year this year, despite the fact of what happened in Japan. So, I think Saracens will take it seriously, but I think they might have to. I think a lot of the English clubs will have to reintegrate their internationals late because they only finished playing the World Cup 2 weeks ago, whereas the Irish players gave themselves a nice break.
Yeah.
Oh, that was all it's all about, wasn't it? Give yourself a nice break.
They were taking one for the provinces.
Yeah, they've all been to Dubai and back, and they're all refreshed, and now they've got a cause now. They're trying to prove us all wrong.
Yeah, Saxon did speak about being frustrated after the World Cup. At what point? I mean, he said, look, for those players who might never get a chance again, it'll always be raw. Is that just so they're never going to move on from this?
It should always be raw. They got to the biggest point. They got their base camp and they fell off the mountain. I mean, they didn't perform at the biggest point of their career. It should be the thing that drives them to succeed and win as many trophies as they can in the next couple of years.
Yeah, or it becomes this thing that eats you up to the point where you can't perform anymore.
Then you don't get picked. That's the new rule. You're not playing with it. Doesn't matter who you are, you don't get picked. It has to be.
From a Leinster perspective, from a Munster perspective.
Well, Leinster brought that in after 2016. I think we have seen big players left on the bench, left out of 23s. After they lost to Connacht in that final, I think the big lesson that they took that summer when they kind of had their coaches' meetings is that they didn't back the players who got them there. They kind of brought in the internationals based on their caps and their experience. And I think that, you heard what Catlin said, 2 or 3 players looked a bit old at the World Cup. Schmidt stayed loyal to his senior men too long. And that is the big lesson I think we all have to take, that, while players, someone might be World Player of the Year last year, it doesn't mean he's necessarily going to start this year. Conor Murray can't get picked just because he's Conor Murray. If he's playing like a train in the Six Nations, Kieran Marmion's already beaten the All Blacks in England. Drop him. Maybe that's the best thing that could happen to him. Rory Best, 37-year-old captain, you can't do that. I mean, that is the lesson, I think, from the World Cup, is that you got to go with form at all times. Larmour, Conway, Ruddock, Porter, Kilcoyne were all playing better than the players who started.
But isn't it shocking, though, and maybe forgive my complete ignorance here and complete ignorance and stupidity, but surely that's coaching 101. You played the best player. Like, how, my mind is blown by the fact that, like, the way you've just explained that, and you said, but sure, I'll throw Best in anyway.
Well,
do you know?
It's possibly selection 101. I think there was a theory, there's this model that people have built for World Cup winners, and it's all about caps and it's all about experience, and you kind of build these groups together, and you have cohesion is one of the biggest factors. So if you've built all these units and you have this front row who've played together X amount of times, you've got this 9-10 partnership. 12-13 didn't build a cohesion because there were so many injuries around Bundi Aki, but the whole model was built around the fact that these players know each other, that they've played together before, they've had these experiences. Like in 2015, Hansen referenced the fact that they came back against Ireland in 2013 as being a big moment on their journey to the World Cup. So the model was there that you kind of stick with these players through thick and thin. New Zealand ripped that model up this year, and cast off Ben Smith. Now, maybe it cost them against England, but against Ireland they looked so vibrant.
Could you make the argument then, if that was the case, if you were sticking to that model, why wasn't Devin Toner there?
You could, absolutely. I mean, these are the questions that we would love to ask Joe Schmidt, but we won't. Maybe the book will tell us.
When's that book out?
Next week.
Next week, yeah.
I don't think he will, but look, I think this is the thing. We all think that Schmidt managed the 3 years of the World Cup cycle so well. He ticked nearly every box. He won every game that he had all these firsts and highs along the way. Built all these all the profile was really good, and then it fell off a cliff, and suddenly the model is
one thing that I haven't had a chance to talk to anybody about this yet, but David Nucifora is overseeing the investigation, the inquest into the whole thing. That doesn't make any sense to me, because he's actually a central character in it.
He was there. He was an incredible member of the management.
It's like it's like the FAI investigating themselves. That's not what happened when
the FAI could share one of the auditors, couldn't they?
Absolutely. When you go back and read Legacy, now look, a lot of that turns out to be nonsense, right? It's we get to write history because we won eventually. But eventually, it took them a long time to get there, despite the fact they had the best team in the world. Talking about the All Blacks book, Legacy. But there was a very interesting, proper, in-depth inquest into what happened, and they absolutely investigated everything that they possibly could. But it was an outside organisation that did it. It wasn't the New Zealand's
Genesis did it in 07.
RFU doing it. And was that not what you need? So someone saying, so David, your strategy was that nobody who left could play, and explain, and now would you do the same thing again, knowing everything you know now? So that there's at least a question of him, no? Because at the moment he seems to be,
and he was handed a 4-year extension just before the World Cup as well. So
it's even more reason to have somebody interrogate from outside and go, well, so are you going to do the same thing again?
Absolutely. Even the fact that we'll never actually see that report, and that David Nucifora will bring us into a room on Christmas week, which is what has happened in the past. So everyone's at Christmas parties, no one's really paying any attention. He'll sit there with his hand on the report and he'll tell us what's in it. But none of us will ever actually get to see it and interrogate it and see what the detail in there is. And they say that's because it's IP, because it's what they do. And in fairness, Warren Gatland did say that their system is best in class last night, which is interesting. And it's one of the failures of Schmidt is that everything was set up for him and didn't deliver it at the end of the day. But I completely agree with you. I think it should be outsourced, it should be open. I think the people who travelled to Japan deserve to know what went wrong. People who spent their own money. I think the fans who tuned in, I think they say that it's a team of us, isn't it? That's the whole thing. We're supposed to all have a part in this, but when it comes to this, it's not. It's very much closed shop, and it's not. Look, they're not transparent around loads of stuff, and they never have been.
You'd have a lot more confidence too if it was an external company. They're going to say, look, we're not going to be transparent, but we're giving this independent external set of people carte blanche to go, and we will act on it. And even then, it's still not satisfactory, but it's a hell of a lot better, like you said, than going in Christmas week with your moment is.
Yeah, well, that's what's happened. That's what I fully expect to happen this time. They are bringing in external interviewers to interview the players. They wouldn't tell me if it would be anonymous or not. But David Nucifora manages the contracts as well.
Yeah, so
you're hardly going to go, well, do you know who I think is going to fault it is? You actually but I'd like 500 grand a year for next year.
Yeah, so 3 or 4 lads who are on their way out, who are literally on their last contract, will have some freedom in that room, but everybody else will be like, I think everything's great. Man, wow. Don't think you could have done anything better for us here, Dave. You were like, wow, you're a stand-up guy.
Yeah.
I love your work.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, but the thing, part of it is, like, he's there, Andy Farrell's there, you know, everything's already in place for the next 4 years. So, you know, unless they, like, I suppose that they're asking us to trust them to do it right, but, you know, this is an organisation that's never delivered anything but better than a quarter-final in the past. So, it's a bit deflating.
Look, there's good games to look forward to this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely.
Saturday, Bath against Ulster, Leinster against Benetton. Leinster could not have cherry-picked. I mean, Benetton are actually much better.
They are, yeah.
Yeah, they're better than Italy, is what one of the Leinster players said to us recently, off the record. But, so it will be a good game. Leinster should win. Should get a bonus point.
You'd expect it. I mean, if it's like what it's like this morning, it might make life a bit difficult, just weather-wise. I mean, if you're trying to score 4 tries. But we saw what Leinster, did the Connacht on Friday night. I mean, they're able to do it both ways. They can beat the crap out of them and get tries through mauls. Ronan Kelleher is a try machine at the moment.
Yeah.
Which is really exciting.
Was it your stat that he's closing in on the record, single-season record for... Can you credit for everything today?
I really wish I'd come up with all these things. But no, yeah, he is closing in on the record.
Sean Cronin and somebody else has scored 8 tries in a season. He's already got 6 or 7.
6, I think. Yeah, it's not. I mean, a lot of them are popping up at the base of mauls, which is the way hookers score tries. But he's been really good in open play as well, and I would expect him to be back this weekend. Keane has a story this morning that Doris is going to start at 8, which is pretty interesting as well. I think it might be his European debut, certainly his first start. So, like, Leinster, I think will be fine. I think Treviso were good. I chatted to Ian Keatley last night. He's going to be involved. He said they had a slow start of the season, but basically the entire Italy squad was away for the start of it, so they're kind of reintegrating them back into it. So they'll cause Leinster problems. They've won and drawn on their last 2 visits to the RDS against weakened Leinster teams, but Leinster's at full strength, should be good enough to beat them, but I think Treviso will make it interesting. Okay, Bath against Ulster, big game for Ulster because this is a difficult pool for them and they've got to start getting something on the board pretty early. Yeah, I think this is, like, if Francois Lowe and Sam Underhill are not involved, which, you know, there's a good chance they might not be because they're both, you know, just having come back after playing in a World Cup final, Bath will be a little bit weakened. I don't see Bath as contenders. I think there's a big gap between Saracens and the rest. Maybe Gloucester are quite good in Connacht's pool, but so I think Ulster will need to win one of their 2 away games in England and then try and get some decent return off Claremont. You know, 4 at home and 1 away maybe. That could get them through. Ulster looked okay on Saturday in Thomond Park if they could hang onto the ball. Yeah. Their pack was good. Jack McGrath looked like he had a bit of life about him again for the first time in a couple of years, which was good. He was getting in people's faces. He was nice and aggressive. That's good to see. Their type 5 Sam Carter, the Australian signing, looks quite good. Matt Faday's the New Zealander in the back 3 is a good addition as well. So they have depth. I wouldn't say depth, but they've got a 23 now, I think. You know, they're currently looking good on the injury front. Henderson comes back in, Stockdale comes back in. 2 players with massive points to prove after the World Cup. Yeah. To themselves more than anything, because they both had bad games against New Zealand. So they're, I think Ulster have a good chance of getting out, but it's these games against the English teams that they'll have to pick up the points because they're unlikely to top Claremont, who might pick the winner. Okay, and Ospreys against Munster. It's a triple header on Saturday. Yeah. So that's the Saturday evening kick-off. Ospreys are playing like drains at the minute. Yeah, I mean, Munster have got to get 10 points off the Ospreys as a base. Everyone in that pool will be looking at that. Saracens and Racing. Like, it's between Saracens, Racing and Munster. So you've got to pick up as much against Ospreys as your base and then try and win the battles against the other 2 teams. When the draw was made an issue, I thought Munster were in big trouble. But the Saracens thing and the fact that England got to the World Cup final and lost has put a dent in my confidence in Saracens at this stage of the tournament. I think if they get to the knockouts, they could still win it. And then Racing have started really poorly. But Racing have a lot of intel on Munster with Rizebo, Ryan and Mike Prendergast in the coaching team as well. So that's the most interesting pool of all, I think. Okay, the Leinster-Benetton game and the Bath-Ulster game both live on Off the Ball on Saturday afternoon. Bath-Ulster kicks off at 1 and Leinster-Benetton kicks off at 3:15. On Sunday, it's Connacht against Montpellier. They need to win. Yeah, it's going to be tough for them. They're missing a lot of second rows. They're missing 4 of their internationals, and they don't have that many internationals as it stands. So it's going to take one of those special Connacht performances, and I think a 1 o'clock kickoff possibly works against them. But Montpellier are one of the worst away teams in the tournament, so they'll hope that Montpellier kind of come over with a kind of, you know, a bit of a bad attitude, that they can take advantage, they can move them around. Maybe it's a bit of a dirty day. But they're hoping for a few factors that that are outside their control. They are a good team, Connacht. It's unfortunate that having reached this point that they wanted to reach, they've done it. They're missing O'Halloran, they're missing Beelum, they're missing Quinrue, Gavin Thornbury, and one of the internationals whose names escapes me right now. They've got a good back line, but their pack is a bit lightweight.
Okay.
That's a concern.
All right, Rory, good stuff. Thanks for joining
Cheers.
us. And I should just remind everybody, it was Gav Kumsky who had the Bundi Aki story. So just in case, I've given everybody the right level of credit that they deserve.